We did it! That's every monster ranked from the first mainline game, and what you are about to watch is a compilation of all of those shorts. I knew once I started making these that I would want to make a video with all of the rankings for each game, but I never thought I'd actually keep up with it. I know the first game may not have too many monsters, but this video clocks in at over 30 minutes of me yapping, so before we get to the good stuff, let me just say thank you guys so much. I never thought I'd hit close to 1,000 subs just from these videos, but here we are. I appreciate each and every one of you for subbing, and those of you stopping by for the first time, welcome. Thank you for having such a vested interest in these goofy little videos of mine. It means a lot to me. Let me stop rambling about nothing, and let's get to me rambling about monsters instead. The year is 2004 and you've just come home from a long day of being a 5th grader. Your parents just got you this brand new game with a quote cool dragon on the cover, and little do you know that you're about to start your journey into the world of Monster Hunter. You press the power button and the very first thing you're greeted by is a sweeping vista and a herd of Aptonoth. You're already in love. A few years go by and you've played a few more Monster Hunter titles. The friendly Aptonoth are always there for you, greeting you on your way to fight those scary monsters that threaten them, and always there to listen to you as you vent your frustrations. It's 2014 now. You're in the middle of college and a brand new game in your favorite series has come out, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and you're excited to pick it up. You turn the game on and can't help but smile when you see the ever-present Aptonoth as one of the first friendly faces you encounter, just like they always have been over the past decade. You slay one, gather the raw meat and the dookie from it, and know that everything is right in the world. January 2018, Monster Hunter World is finally here. You enter the ancient forest and your buddies ask if you're okay as you openly weep at the sight of your best friend. The Aptonoth treat you as they always have, by running away, but you know that that's just how they are. Life is worth living. 2021 rolls around and you're excited for Monster Hunter Rise. After the success of World, you can't wait to finally play this brand new installment. You jump in, head out onto the first quest of the Shrine Ruins, excited to see the one true friend that has always been there for you. But where's the herd of Aptonoth that have always greeted you on your first quest? Why aren't they here? Instead, we have these fucking badgers. Where are they? Capcom must have made a mistake. They have to be here. They have to be here. A piece of you feels missing, and you don't know what to do about it. Life is pain. The Game Awards, December 2023. Monster Hunter Wilds is shown off, and you're beyond excited for it. But there's still this void within your heart that you can't explain. A year goes by, and you still haven't seen anything of your beloved Aptonoth. Have they truly forgotten about them? You don't know if you can ever forgive Capcom for this. Oh, hey, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Aptonoth gets an A for always being here. Oh, Bullfango. As someone whose first game was Rise, I remember meeting you in the Shrine Ruins for the first time. You were just a goofy little guy who wasn't afraid to pick a fight with anyone who stepped on your turf. I remember thinking, man, it sure would be cool if there was a bigger version of this guy. Okay, maybe not, but hey, a boar isn't a bad premise for a monster as long as it has some fun attacks and doesn't just charge it. Okay, look, man, I'm trying to give you some credit here. You have potential, so why don't you just hear me out? At the end of the day, Bulldrome, you're just a boar. You can't all be winners. What the f*** is that? Now this is what I'm talking about. Frontier was onto something. Bigger mohawk, bigger tusks, and an actual moveset. You're a proper monster now. There's no way that you can get better than this. Holy hell! Just when you thought Frontier had it figured out that Bulldrome had reached its peak, Monster Hunter Online comes in and shows us Bulldrome's final form. What makes these Bulldrome unique, you ask? How about the fact that they summon an orb from the ground and enter one of 5 elemental states once enraged? And that's not all. No, because after their tusks break, the elemental Bulldrome enters the goddamn avatar state. I couldn't find any footage of this hunt and it hurts, so if you know where it exists, please show me. At the end of the day though, those insanely cool and unique Bulldromes don't exist in today's game, so Bulldrome gets a D for Daniel, but it's that yearbook meme with the cooler Daniel right next to him. Cephalos and Cephadrome suck. They get an F for these fishes.
Now hold it right there, Mr. Internet Man. I'm a fellow Internet Man, and I have a different opinion than you, and I think you're wrong. Cephalos and Cephadrome don't suck. They're actually really cool.
Nope, he sucks. F. Next monster.
Well, I don't think you're being very fair. He has many redeeming qualities.
Okay, name one.
His design of a sand sharkfish is unique and pretty cool.
Not only is his design uninspired, they also improved on the idea of a sand shark in every game afterwards. Genendar and Moron are peak. Nibblesnarf has better environmental game mechanics. Even the small monster Delix has a better design as an actual sandfish. Cephadrome sucks.
Well, he was at least the coolest sand monster in Monster Hunter 1, since that's the game we're talking about.
No, he wasn't. Monster Hunter 1 introduced the most well-known desert-dwelling monsters still to this day, Diablos, and his much lesser-known, but still just as cool brother, Monoblos.
Okay, but at least he had a fun and challenging moveset.
Did he? They spend 80% of the fight underground, and don't you dare just say
Just
use
use
sonic
sonic bombs, idiot. You're just saying that because you don't understand what makes him cool.
Okay, that's fair. Let me try to understand what makes him cool. You like that he travels by swimming underground, right?
Yeah.
You like that he is a mix of physical attacks while still being able to blast the player with beams from a distance?
Yeah, it's sick.
You like that he has a mechanic where you can pop him out of the ground with sonic bombs?
Duh, that's what makes him grounded in reality.
Then, yeah, I like that monster.
See, you finally get it.
Yeah, Balahara
Cepharome
is cool.
Wait, what?
A sand monster that spends time underground that has big, sweeping physical attacks and shoots beams of water at you. Yeah, you want to know the best part?
Sure, what?
He doesn't suck. Cephalodrome sucked so that Balahara could be cool. We never need to see this monster back as far as I'm concerned. My ranking still stands F for fuck this fucking fish. Nobody judged me, but my first game in this series was Monster Hunter... Monster Hunter Rise. No, wait. I only bring this up because when I saw these little freaks, I didn't understand what they were doing. Just cute little wild cats. Neat. I have a Palico and she helps me. I wonder what these little guys do. So I approach them, they jump at me, nab a potion or whatever, and I just kind of shrug and go on with the hunt. Who cares? Nothing clawful. Now imagine my shock and horror as I went back to play the older Monster Hunter games.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
My worldview of just a potion was destroyed when in the older generations of Monster Hunter, a potion was an investment. That potion took time, knowledge, and gumption to get, and this little jerk just took it from me and they just took my map. Not only were they way more aggressive in previous titles, these little jerks would just take anything and everything from you. Hope you don't have anything valuable. Map, gone. Crafting books, yoink. Grandma's cherished ring that's been passed down for generations, already pawned. These cats were ruthless. And that's kind of what I love about them. It could be annoying, sure, but you could always go back and get your items as long as you knew where their little hideout was, which was always a treat to find. They went from this goofy, perfect encapsulation of a cat as a mild inconvenience in a series about monsters to evolving into a goofy, perfect encapsulation of a cat that is now your partner in a series about monsters. As someone who started this series in the 5th gen, I truly couldn't imagine playing this game without my furry companion next to me, knocking me out of stuns, tossing plunder rings and getting more gems and mantles than I ever could hope, and just hanging out with me in my house. These adorable, wild, bipedal cats are absolute perfection. Felyne and Melynx both get an S for something special. Chances are that no matter what Monster Hunter game you started with, your first monster was one of these little freaks, or this freak, or this freak, or no, not you, Great Macau, I don't count you, or even this freak. Monster Hunter World kind of broke the trend of early game raptors, only for Great Azuchi to come back swinging in Rise. Rise actually did a lot to show the raptors some love, bringing in a whole 3 large raptors to the roster, but seemingly excluding the OG, the first, and dare I say the most boring of all the raptors. Velocidrome is just kind of a dinosaur. I can't really blame him for it though. He's just a product of his time. Being a part of the first game means that they had no foundation to build on, and if we're being fair to good old Velocidrome here, he is the foundation for all the other raptors. He does have a few things going for him. That snazzy little orange mohawk really pops against the blue body and dark stripes. He's the very first large monster that you actually fight in Monster Hunter 1, and you've been taught how to fight him by the prior hunts against his little gang of Velociprey, which is a great way to teach the player and really show them what to expect from the game. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the good ends. So then what does he have going against him? Well, he's boring. I get that he's an early game monster, the earliest early game monster, but once the other raptors come into play in Monster Hunter 1, you kind of forget about your pal Velocidrome. The raptors are generally used as tutorial monsters of some sort. Gendrome teaches you about paralysis, Iodrome brings about poison for the first time. Hell, in Rise, Great Baggy teaches you how annoying sleep can be. But Velocidrome? Well, he's the tutorial for basically how to fight large monsters, and so by circumstance, can't be too interesting. Intro monsters have come a long way to be more interesting and engaging. Fivers will never forget watching a Great Jagras swallow an Aptonoth whole, or watching Great Azuchi spin at them flanked on either side by his smaller Azuchis. Ironically, Great Azuchi is a more engaging tutorial raptor that shows that you don't need a status or element to be a good raptor. Hell, look at Great Jaggy! He's a fan favorite and he's a non-status or elemental raptor, but how could you not love that bark? All in all, I'm glad that Velocidrome exists and he's a good foundation to build upon, but he doesn't really stand out on his own, so Velocidrome gets a D for dull dinosaur. Yian Kut-Ku is kind of like your favorite high school teacher that you didn't realize you missed until you went to college and then came back to your hometown and ran into them in a local grocery store. Let me explain that. Back when Monster Hunter came out all those years ago, Yian Kut-Ku was the very first flying wyvern the OG hunters fought, and this has garnered a sort of respect within the Monster Hunter community. You see, Yian Kut-Ku is the one who taught all of those original hunters how to hunt damn near the entire roster. Flying wyverns were the bulk of the original game. Most of your biggest, baddest threats were flying wyverns. Rathian, Rathalos, Diablos, Monoblos, Basarios, Gravios, and Khezu? And Yian Kut-Ku was there to teach you their movements and tells. Is he kicking dirt? That's a charge. Is his weird little chicken throat expanding? Watch out for fireballs. He instantly ran into you in a half second and half of your health is missing? Well, that's just a Monster Hunter 1 thing. Or not. This one small, dorky looking chicken dragon also teaches the player about weak spots because you can hit that big dumb head of his, and the only other large monster you've fought up to this point is a Velocidrome, who's just kind of there as a glorified punching bag. He can also end up teaching you about elemental resistances as well, because if you have negative fire res, you're gonna have a bad time. Capcom has done a good job of showing this weird little goober some love over the years too, and understands the respect that he has within the community. From expanding his lore and eating conchus to the packs and swarms of them that we see in the Scarlet Forest, every time this little bird guy is around, he brings with him an air of silliness that the series has always had and I hope always will have. I give Yian Kut-Ku an A, the grade that you'd get on the test from your favorite teacher in high school. You know, I kind of think that I lost the metaphor somewhere down the line here. So you know how I talked about how Velocidrome really set up a solid foundation for the early game Raptors and how all of the Raptors beyond him built upon that? Well, if we're to keep that same analogy going for some reason, then Gendrome took that foundation and said,
You know what would go great here? A landfill.
because Gendrome kinda stinky. I'm not gonna say he's the worst Raptor, but hear me out. Of all of the statuses the game could teach you about, they chose paralysis first, and I've gotta say, bold choice. By this point in the game, you've already been paralyzed by a Vespoid at least once. Don't tell me you haven't. We all know you have, and we are all laughing at you. But after some time, you kind of get used to them. They're annoying, sure, but simple to avoid. But then, like, come on, man. These little fuckers will just graze you and you're down. It wouldn't be so bad if they didn't just look so damn stupid. Where Velocidrome has the lightning blue body and orange accents, Gendrome is kind of just brown and greenish brown. I don't know, man. I'm colorblind. I actually really like his frills. They're goofy, but that's kind of why I like them so much. But I am about to say something that you may not be able to unsee, and I'm sorry if this ruins his aesthetic for you, but I do think his teeth look a lot like a droopy long mustache. I know they're meant to be long viper fangs or something, but to me, he looks like he's trying to be a detective and a really shitty one for some reason. But here's truly the most fucked up part. I kind of want to see him come back to the games. I know. I just think that they can make all of these early game Raptors fun, and I would love to see them all come back. This doesn't mean I want them to take up a third of the roster, but we need to reimagine Gendrome so that I can get paralyzed from off screen and then run over by a Diablos. You know what? On second thought, never mind. I wouldn't say Gendrome deserves an F. That's maybe a little too harsh and only for the truly horrid monsters, but he's definitely below Velocidrome, so I guess Gendrome gets an E for easily the most annoying Raptor.
So, Citrus, you said that you really liked the idea of the early game Raptors and that you hope to see them back. If that's the case, there's gotta be something you like about them, because you were pretty harsh on Velocidrome and Gendrome. So that must mean you really like Iodrome, right? Right?
Oh no. Is that what you think, hypothetical person I just made up? Because of the 3 OG Raptors, I truly, honestly like Iodrome the least by a wide margin. I don't know what it is about him, be it his dumb, stupid face, his dumb, stupid crest, or the fact that he looks like a dumb, stupid, melty poison dart frog with a purple comb tied to his head. Appearance-wise, I just can't see any redeeming qualities in this monster, and I absolutely hate how he looks. I'm sorry to anyone who does, but like, why? There is one thing that I like about him though, and it's that he's a poison monster. Not a very good one, but a poison monster nonetheless, and I'm a big fan of poison monsters. Poison is a big factor in the series, and I think it is one of the best statuses from a monster and weapon perspective. When a good poison monster is introduced, it can be fun to learn their patterns and how to handle where the poison comes from. Pookie is a great poison monster. Him and Iodrome also fill a similar space as an early game poison monster monster who is there to teach you the ropes about this status. But here's the thing, you know when and where Pookie Pookie is about to launch poison. Iodrome just kind of does it whenever. I know, I'm comparing the first game in the series to everyone's baby Monster Hunter World. It's not a direct apples to apples comparison, but this is why I keep saying that I want to see the three raptors come back. Give Iodrome the chance to not suck ass, and I won't have to rate him so low. At the end of the day, I think my biggest problem with Iodrome is that he isn't Great Roggy, who's clearly the superior poison raptor. Iodrome gets an E for eye-wateringly ugly and stupid. Gypceros is ugly. End of sentence. And I'm not talking the cute kind of ugly like pugs. I'm talking the kind of ugly where it mentally and maybe even physically hurts to look at him. But, I think he's meant to be ugly. So when in doubt, just say it was a design choice. So he's ugly, so what? What's his gameplay like? Well, let's just say he's an amalgamation of everything wrong with the monsters we've talked about so far. He's got Kut-Ku's sporadic movements, Iodrome's random spittle of poison, and a stun, which is just worse paralysis. And on top of all of that, his entire gimmick is to just die, which is, say it with me, a design choice. This gimmick is fine, I suppose, but at this point, Gypceros, I think the secret is out of the bag, buddy. Wilds did a decent job of bringing him to the modern generation, and I enjoy fighting him because you never really know what he's gonna do next. His spastic movements and general weirdness lend to a fun fight in the moment, but I would be lying if I said he wasn't one of the most forgettable fights. But here's the thing, I don't hate Gypceros. Now, please don't mistake me saying I don't hate him for me liking him, and God no, but he's not the worst monster like he was. Pre-Wilds, if I would have been looking at this freak from my experience with him in 4U in videos of him from the first game, he would have been an F, but he was massively improved on, so Gypceros gets a D for a derpy little dude. The time has come. We have reached Rathalos and he's already flying away. Well, I don't want to talk about him until he comes back, so I guess I'll just wait for him to land. How long could that take? Right. Okay, so Rathalos is the OG, the main man himself, the king of the skies and of our hearts. Monster Hunter would not be what it is today if it weren't for him. As the mascot of the series, he can almost be seen as the Pikachu of Monster Hunter. A larger, much scarier, fire-breathing, flying, red Pikachu. I guess that's just Charizard. And much like Charizard, he's overhyped as hell. Oh, there he goes again. Sir, can you please just stay on the ground for a little bit longer? Okay, well, other than being extremely rude and annoying and incapable of taking criticism, he has shown that every monster in this series is capable of new heights. In just about every ranking before this, I've talked about how monsters with bad designs should come back, because I know that Capcom can give them the fights that they deserve. Well, Rathalos is a testament to that. As someone who hasn't fought him in the older titles, I haven't had the luxury of experiencing what so many people have dubbed the Rathalos World Tour. But looking through every generation, his fight has only grown in scale and, for lack of a better term, epicness. As someone who started with Rise, I feared Rathalos as a threat from the get-go. He was quick, agile in the air, and had some devastating attacks that punished the use of wire bugs. So when I later found out people were saying Rise's Rathalos was the best his fight had ever felt, it made me extremely happy to know that what I was seeing, what I had experienced for my first ever Rathalos fight, was his peak. And I felt it. Rathalos beat me down, and I'm glad he did. He has shown us that a monster that used to fight by wasting our time can become the threat that we have associated with his name for 20 years now. Rathalos gets an A for being the aerial king that we've come to love. When I first started with the series, I remember talking to my friend who was a veteran hunter and saying, yeah, I think I just fought Rathalos. It wasn't too bad, but his backflip caught me off guard a few times. And he just stared at me and said,
That's not Rathalos. That's his wife.
And I just stared back at him, shocked. What do you mean that the game about hunting big scary monsters has sexual dimorphism and actual thought put into the ecology? This is when I started watching and noticing all of the things about the lives of these monsters. From watching her sprint to my location if I had an egg of hers, to Rathalos screaming for the aid of his partner. This is when my understanding and appreciation for the series expanded and my addiction started. All thanks to Rathian. As for her fight, I'm not afraid to say it. I prefer it over Rathalos. Her kit feels evenly balanced between brute force charges and swings and flashy aerial attacks that show that her partner isn't the only one who can swat you from the skies. My favorite of these airborne attacks has to be the backflip, the bane of my newbie hunting career. This attack knocked me on my ass more than I'd care to admit when I was just a baby to the series. But the backflip also taught younger me to watch the monster closely, study their cues, and to really focus on the monster and not the buttons I was pressing. Rathian taught me how to study monsters more efficiently, and I've come to love fighting her for that. I think this is why I usually target her when trying out a new weapon. She's big enough to get a feel for fighting most large monsters. Her moves have enough wind up to know what to watch out for, but she's not a pushover either. She will knock you down, poison you, catch your ass on fire, and triple charge right into you if you're too focused on what your new weapon does. Her wide kit mixed with her well-telegraphed moves make her a perfect sparring partner, one that I will keep coming back to like a student coming back to their master even though they've learned all they can from them. No matter how practiced I get, I make sure to still give Rathian the respect she deserves. Rathian gets an A+ for my adorned queen. Have you ever stepped on your dog's paw and they let out the world's saddest yelp like you've broken their trust forever, or almost trip over your cat in the middle of the night because they decided last second that between your legs would be the perfect place to run? Or have you ever looked at your pet and they're just staring longingly outside, bored out of their mind when everything they could ever need or want is inside? I promise I play with my cat. She's just half asleep here. You have to believe me. Well, that's how I feel about Basarios. He's almost too innocent. He's just a little baby, taking naps in the rocks, eating shiny rocks, and spitting up liquid rocks. He doesn't have a care in the world because he's a literal toddler. He's just a gentle giant who wants to sleep and eat, and oh, his first request in Monster Hunter says, what? A wyvern attacked my expedition out of the blue in the volcanic zone. Well, I mean, that doesn't imply that anyone got hurt. Who submitted the guild request anyway? Ugh. Look, all I'm saying is that all Basarios wants is to grow up to become big and strong and turn into a Gravios, and that we shouldn't stop him from doing that. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, yeah, that could be a problem. Before anyone freaks out in the comments, I know that Gravios doesn't turn into Zora Magnaros, but it makes sense if you don't think about it too hard. My first hunt with Basarios was actually pretty uneventful. Just some poisoning, the occasional fire beam, and a whole lot of dinking. But you know what? I found myself coming back to him if I needed a change of pace from fighting stronger monsters. Mostly because I needed load shells for my gunlance builds, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy my time with him. All in all, Basarios is cute, not so cuddly, and kind of boring, but that doesn't mean that I don't like him. His design is pretty simple but well executed. I give Basarios a B for the fact that he's a literal baby. This is gonna be a short one, guys. Where do I even begin? So, Plesioth is a fish, right? Like a fish, but with legs. Like the ones you stand on, so he's like a fish, but he's standing on legs. So like on land, you follow me so far? And that's it. I give him a D for I don't really care too much about him because he's a fish that's got legs that's on land, and that's kind of all he does. In all seriousness, though, I can't really say that Plesioth excels at damn near anything other than being annoying and really ugly. I've never personally fought the man, but from everything I've seen of him, I don't know if I want to. From the water jets to the random flopping, he just seems kinda ass to fight. And need I mention? Yeah. So, do I really need to say anything more? Piscine Wyverns really got shafted, and I know that I'm the spokesperson for bring back old monsters and make their fights better, but like, we've only ever seen one good Piscine Wyvern, and he'll get his own video in due time, but let's just say it didn't take much for him to be above the rest. Plesioth gets a D- or an F+ for dumb fish or fish dumb. I'll leave it up to you guys which one you decide. I'm not afraid to say it. I like Monoblos more than I like Diablos, even though I've never fought him. The funny thing is, I don't think this is a hot take. As easy as it would be to make this video about the Bloses plural, Diablos will be getting his own video, and trust me, I have a lot more to say about him than I do Monoblos for personal reasons. So without trying to talk about them together, let's try to purely look at Monoblos, the forgotten sand-dwelling flying wyvern. So what does he do? Well, let's take a look. I'm pretty sure he charges, he pokes, and he dig. Okay, well, let's compare that to the other monsters list. Okay, so Monoblos may not be very original mechanically speaking, but he's only been in like 2 games and he does seem very important lore-wise. It's said that the village chief of Kokoto Village fought one for an entire month, and that if you are to fight one, you must do it alone, which I think is pretty neat because they convey this in the game. You can't fight Monoblos online, and you can only perform his hunt offline to show your courage. Other than that, we kind of just have 2 similar-looking desert-dwelling horned beasts roaming around the desert. Monoblos gets a B for bygone, lost to time, forgotten. Ooh, that's sad. Diablos, I hate you. But god damn it if I don't respect you. This monster. I can't quite express to you just how much hardship this monster has caused me in my fairly brief time with this series. Hunters remember their first wall, and for me, Diablos was just that. I look back at my time with Rise and reminisce just how bad I was at the game. As my very first experience with the series, I was not very good. Shocking, I know. I still hadn't found a weapon that resonated with me, wire bugs felt clunky, and I just felt like I was being tossed around by monsters, but I was still making my way through it. I had fought through most of the roster at this point. I had tussled with some strong monsters. I mean, hell, I fought the main man on the box. Naive me thought fighting the flagship meant I was close to the end, but little did I know that the truly heinous monsters, the banes of my young hunter career, were still ahead of me. Enter what I like to call the dumb strong charge right at you monsters. My least favorite kind of monsters. Leading the charge, we've got the top 2 contenders of my least favorite monsters as a beginner in Rise. Diablos and Tigrex. These fuckers. I think these 2 had led to more carts than any other monster I had fought up to this point. The worst part of it, I was playing Longsword at the time. Let that sink in. As a more experienced hunter now, I look back and I can't help but feel admiration for the absolute hell that Diablos put me through. I still hate this fucker, don't get me wrong, but I have become a better hunter because of him. Usually the monsters that you hate the most are the ones that teach you the most valuable lessons. Diablos taught me that shields are sick and that Gunlance doesn't give a shit about your hit zones. Nowadays, this fool means nothing to me. I see a Diablos and I go, fine. But every so often, I'll cart during a hunt, be it not paying attention, trying a new weapon, or just forgetting just how hard this motherfucker hits. And I'll think back to the terror that this monster struck in me at the beginning of my journey. Diablos gets a B- for being my bitter rival. So, yeah, Khezu, I don't know how to say this without hurting your feelings, but you're kind of ugly. That's not to say you're a bad monster. I would never say that. It's just that you kind of scare me, and that's fine. That's fine. You're just living your best life as a cave-dwelling, nightmare-inducing, electric-launching leech monster, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know it said you were the literal nightmare of one of the devs on the Monster Hunter team, and it kind of shows. But here's the thing. I wasn't really too creeped out by it the first time I fought it in Rise, and I don't know what that says about me. It wasn't until I started looking at it and learning about its ecology, and I saw just how horrific this freak actually is. Oh, what about it made me feel this way? I'm glad you asked. For starters, I used my eyes. Look at its neck, man. Why is it gonna do that? And the weird tail thing and the kind of lipstick Joker-looking mouth? What I'm getting at is when you start looking at this thing a little closer, you start to see just how gross it really is. But I think what skeeved me out the most was learning how they reproduce. They grow their baby in their tail, paralyze a warm-blooded creature with their electrified saliva, and then pump it. No, I can't say pump it. They inject the baby into said creature until it's strong enough to burst out of its fucking chest. They're the goddamn xenomorphs of the Monster Hunter franchise. They also love to dangle upside down in the cave ceiling and drip spit down just like the xenomorphs do. And as someone who loved the Alien movies at a way too young of age, you'd think I'd be into it, but nah, man. After the first hunt, I kind of didn't want anything to do with it. But with all that said, he is a pretty solid monster. He really mixes it up by being not cool. In a game series filled with really interesting and cool designs, he really shows us that being a nasty electric penis can still be fun to fight. Khezu gets a B for butt ugly. Okay, so let's see who's next on the list. We did Plesioth, we did the Wrath, Khezu. What was... That was probably nothing. We did the Blows Brothers, Basarios, and the Derpy Raptors, the Derpy Chickens. I guess that just leaves Gravios. Oh my god, he's huge! We've made it to the end of the first game, and what better way to capstone the first generation than with the boulder? But not just any boulder, a father. That's right, little baby Basarios is Gravios Jr. What I'm trying to say is that he's an adult Basarios. I know that doesn't necessarily mean that Gravios is a dad. He could be living the bachelor life for all I know, but what I'm trying to say is that this big chonksome lad is now all grown up and getting older. And just like anyone getting older, we all go through changes. He's made it through the voice cracks, the acne, the growth spurts, and is still finding himself as he approaches his golden years, retreating to warmer climates as the weather changes, developing a harder, crustier shell, and creating vents across his body for plumes of smoke and steam to billow out of, just like any other old person. I guess he waited till he was older to pick up smoking. The first time I fought this hunka burning coal was in Wilds, and I gotta say he's pretty alright. He's not the craziest fight I ever fought, and he certainly didn't put up as much of a challenge as I thought he would, kind of an issue in Wilds as a whole. But he was fun. The lasers were sick, and shooting down to the ground Fatalis style was cool to see, and him getting a mix of all three gases was a neat way to show us that there's still a little part of the baby Basarios in there, especially since he didn't have the poison gas up until the latest game. Now, if only they would bring his son back. He was in Rise. Just bring him over. They could have been together again. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that he's pretty okay. He's fine. He's good, but not great. And that tells me that Gravios gets a B. Not for baby, but for big boy boulder. Oh, did I say we were at the end of the game in the last video? Psych, we've still got the two big boys left to talk about, and one of the biggest boys of all, my man, the one, the only, Lao-Shan Lung. Actually, I know almost nothing about this monster, other than he big, he's spiky, and he's step. You know that when most of the pictures you look up for this monster are this, then they really want you to feel his immenseness. And how better to portray that massiveness, that grand scale, than with a walking simulator. So yeah, you smack his dogs, you run ahead, you wait, you shoot the ballista, you finally find the commander's Dragonator, and that's it. Congrats. Hopefully you don't need that 1% plate carve, or you're gonna be here for a while. What Lao's fight lacks in engagement, it makes up for in atmosphere and for being the origin of siege fights. Say what you will about the hunt as a whole, but without this massive thick dragon, we may not have the likes of Kolvtaroth, Gendrome, and Shenguren. Okay, maybe that last one isn't the best example, but you see what I'm saying. I don't have rose-tinted glasses for Lao. I've never hunted Lao, but as someone who loves this franchise and is looking back at it as a whole, I can appreciate what they attempted to do. They wanted a big, scary, intimidating, storm the gates kind of monster, and though Lao may have missed the mark, they really knew what they were doing with this next one. Lao-Shan Lung gets a D for doesn't really do too much, or a C- for kind of just crawls. He's here. And so is a confession. I've never beat Fatalis, and by that I mean I've never even fought Fatalis. I know, I'm a fake fan. I'm a Monster Hunter tourist, and I deserve all the criticism thrown my way because only real fans solo him armorless with only emotes. I know, you don't have to tell me. But I think by not fighting him in a narrative and meta sense, it adds to his identity. He's terrifying, he's intimidating, and only the strongest hunters dare challenge him head on. And I did not feel like the strongest hunter in world when I was playing it. I felt like I knew what I was doing, that I could jump into most hunts and come out victorious, but Fatalis seemed like a futile effort, like an impenetrable wall that I wouldn't be able to get over, no matter how good I got at the game. Now, this all boils down to mentality, sure, but it also means that somewhere along the line, I got this image of an unstoppable, cataclysmic, end-all be-all dragon in my head, and it was rapidly approaching. By the end of Iceborne, I was fully immersed in the world and story, and somewhere along the lines, subconsciously, I told myself that defeating Fatalis is impossible. It was as though I was reacting how the villagers and hunters act in-game, and how the Monster Hunter community act when discussing him, in hushed tones or in triumph and awe for doing the impossible. At the end of the day, I'm scared of Fatalis because he's meant to be scary, not just story-wise, not just because he's said to be the hardest boss monster of damn near any video game, but because he's a big, scary, fire-breathing, evil black dragon that will kill you instantly, and our human brains tell us to be scared of something like that. He's a fight for the human psyche just as much as he's a fight in the actual video game. From monster design, to the hunt, to the music, to the lore, Fatalis is peak Monster Hunter, but I can't give him an S before experiencing the hunt myself firsthand. For now, I have to give Fatalis an A+ for awe-inducing, antagonistic, adrenaline-pumping final boss, knowing full well that he will be an S-rank monster when I finally slay this beast all on my own. And last but certainly not least, the final monster, the one I didn't forget, the Elder Dragon that I totally knew was in the first game and not just as some sort of event monster in Monster Hunter 1, even though I don't even know if it had events. It's everyone's favorite, totally not forgettable horse monster, Kirin. Seriously though, I didn't even realize Kirin was in the game until someone pointed it out to me, and I kind of feel bad because that's how I act about Kirin in Monster Hunter World. Every time I see it on the map, I go, oh yeah, Kirin's in the game, and then just go on hunting what I actually came for. I respected Kirin from a distance, and I like to think it was doing the same for me. Kirin wasn't in Rise, and since I started with Rise, I had only heard about this crazy lightning horse from my Monster Hunter buddy. So when I finally got into World, I was very excited to finally hunt it, and well, I got clapped. I got absolutely folded, and I kind of disliked Kirin because they put me down so hard. You keep dinking, you keep getting stunned all day, the lightning is bullshit at the best of times, and rage-inducing I'm gonna install the game at its worst. But, and there's always a but on this channel, once you build a set to counter all of that garbage, and by garbage I mean its move set, then you're set, you're fine. Stack Thunder Res, get stun immunity, remember your mantles, and maybe actually try dodging, and then all of a sudden you're capable. Who would have thought? You play into the mechanics and theme of the game, and then you're rewarded with an easier hunt. That's one thing that I actually appreciate the Elders in World. They're this group of creatures so powerful, they change the environment around them. Their fights are tough, they do some absolutely absurd things in a biological and ecological level, but if you build to counteract those insanities, then they're honestly not that bad. Except for Kushala. World Kushala, dude. I don't know how Kirin fought in Monster Hunter 1, and I don't really care to find out, at least not anytime soon. I may eventually go back and play those older games, but until then, I'm gonna give Kirin an A for absolutely almost not forgettable.